I57M, never thought I'd be posting something like this, but I need to get this off my chest as it's been eating me up inside for weeks. This is about my son Marcus, 27M, and how he essentially ripped my heart out, which led me to doing something pretty extreme that I'm still conflicted about. Quick background, Marcus is my only child from my first marriage. His mom left when he was 7, running off to Europe with some guy named Michael. I raised Marcus by myself for 5 years before meeting my current wife Linda, 45F. Those 5 years were rough, running a business while raising a kid who was seriously struggling with his mom's abandonment. About 2 months ago, Marcus tells me he's getting married to Kate, 26F. We've had tons of problems over the years, you wouldn't believe the stuff I've had to deal with, but when he told me about the wedding, I was genuinely happy for him. They couldn't afford anything more than a courthouse wedding, so I did what any dad would do, offered to pay for the whole thing as a wedding gift. Venue, catering, flowers, music, the works. We're talking about a $50,000 wedding. I run an export business that's been in my family for 2 generations, so I can afford it. Not trying to brag, but I wanted to give my son the wedding he deserved. I remember the day we sat down to talk about the wedding plans, Marcus actually seemed happy, genuinely excited. First time I'd seen him like that in years. He was showing me all these Pinterest boards and Instagram posts of wedding stuff he liked. For a minute there, it felt like maybe we were finally going to have that father-son relationship I always wanted. The wedding planner they picked was this guy who'd done a bunch of high-end weddings in our area. Real professional, had a whole team and everything. Marcus went to all these meetings with him, picking out decorations and stuff. I just paid the deposits and let him handle it all. Figured it was his day, you know? Plus, I was crazy busy with work, and honestly, what do I know about wedding planning? I remember texting him one night after he sent me some pictures of the venue he picked, this gorgeous place by the lake, real fancy. Told him I was proud of him and couldn't wait to be part of his special day, to give that father's speech I'd been already drafting in my head. He just sent back a thumbs up emoji. Should have known something was off right there, but I guess I was too caught up in the whole thing to notice. Everything seemed fine for about a month and a half. Marcus was doing all the wedding prep stuff, I was paying all the bills, which kept getting bigger. By the way, who needs a chocolate fountain and an ice sculpture, and I figured we were good. I even started working with my tailor to get a nice suit made. Linda was helping me pick out colors and everything. She's always been really supportive of Marcus, even though he's been nothing but nasty to her for years. But then little things started feeling off. Linda's cousin ran into one of Kate's friends at a cafe and mentioned how excited we were for the wedding. Apparently, Kate's friend looked confused and said, "Oh, I thought they weren't inviting them." She said they had to cut out toxic family members for Marcus's mental health. The friend just awkwardly mumbled something about a really traumatic childhood before changing the subject. At the time, I brushed it off, thinking maybe she misunderstood. Everything started falling apart when my brother called me asking about the wedding date because he needed to book flights. I figured I'd just call the wedding planner real quick to add him to the guest list. Should have been simple, right? But the guy starts acting all weird on the phone, saying stuff like, "I'm sorry, sir, but the guest list is already full and I'll need to check with the couple about any changes." Now I'm thinking, what the hell? I'm literally paying for everything, and this guy's acting like he needs permission to add one person. So I push back a little, asking him to just send me the full guest list so I can see what we're working with. This dude starts stammering, saying he's not authorized to share that information with anyone. That's when I lost it a bit, not gonna lie, probably could have handled this better. Told him straight up that I'm the one signing his checks, and either he sends me that list, or I'm calling his boss. Yeah, I know I was being demanding, but something felt really off. He finally caves and emails me the list. My name wasn't on it. Linda's name wasn't on it. But you want to know what the real knife in the gut was? Right there in black and white, father of the groom's speech, Michael, and special family toast, Michael. The traditional father's roles at the wedding, all given to him. I also noticed I wasn't even listed anywhere in the seating arrangements or the reception program. I had been completely erased. Michael. The same guy who helped my ex-wife abandon our 7-year-old son. The guy who told my ex he wasn't ready to be a father when they moved to Europe. The guy who literally looked me in the face and said, "Marcus is your problem now," before they left. That's when it clicked. This wasn't just about me not being invited, this was about replacing me. About erasing me completely. And the worst part? Marcus had already been spreading lies to justify it. I called my sister, my parents, hell, even some of our extended family. Every single one of them had heard some version of the same story, how I was emotionally abusive, how I never supported him, how I was controlling and manipulative. He had been laying the groundwork for this for months, probably telling Kate's family the same thing. Spinning some sob story about how I was a neglectful father so they wouldn't question why he cut me off. I must have stared at that email for an hour, kept thinking maybe I was reading it wrong. But nope, the wedding planner even forwarded me Marcus's original emails. He had specifically instructed them to not let me or Linda into the venue. Had a whole section about security protocols and everything. So here I was, $50,000 deep into my son's wedding, and I find out I'm not even allowed to attend. Not only that, but he's giving all the traditional father's roles to the guy who abandoned him, the guy who hasn't sent him so much as a birthday card in 20 years. Michael would be giving the main father's speech, doing the special family toast, and even sitting at the place of honor where the groom's father should be. Every single meaningful moment that should have been mine, given to him. I'm not going to pretend I handled it well. Went on a pretty bad bender for about a week, like taking shots for breakfast kind of bender. Linda was really worried, kept trying to get me to eat something, but I just couldn't. Just sat in my home office staring at that email and drinking myself stupid. Called Marcus probably 50 times during that week, all straight to voicemail. Left a bunch of messages, started out calm, got progressively more angry and emotional. Real embarrassing stuff looking back, but like, what do you even say to your kid when they do something like this? The worst part was watching Linda try to process it all. She's been in Marcus's life for 14 years, helped me get him through high school, college, 2 rehab stays. Yeah, that's a whole other story. Always defended him when other people talked about his behavior, and this is how he repays her. The wedding planner kept sending me bills during all this, regular updates about payments due for flowers, catering deposits, all that crap. Each one was like a fresh slap. Marcus was still running around planning his perfect wedding like everything was fine, using my money to throw a party I wasn't even allowed to attend. Found out later he was at his bachelor party that week, saw pics on my niece's Instagram. He looked so happy, partying with his friends, not a care in the world. Meanwhile, I'm sitting at home having a complete breakdown, trying to figure out where I went so wrong as a father that my kid would do this to me. I know, I probably sound pathetic, 57-year-old man crying over his son being mean to him. But nothing prepares you for this kind of betrayal. I've had business partners screw me over, gone through a nasty divorce, dealt with all kinds of crap, but this hit different. I kept thinking about all the times I'd imagined giving that father's speech at his wedding, sharing those special father-son moments at the reception, how I'd managed to stay in his life despite all the drama, the fights, the midnight calls from police stations and hospitals, how I'd never given up on him even when everyone told me I should. And now he was choosing Michael. Michael. After a week of feeling miserable and leaving probably the most embarrassing voicemails ever, seriously, listening back to them makes me cringe. I finally sobered up enough to realize I needed to confront Marcus face to face. Linda tried to talk me out of it, said I should wait till I calmed down more, but I couldn't just sit there anymore, you know? That confrontation, well, that's when things really went nuclear. But I think I've written enough for now. I'll post an update soon about what happened next, and believe me, it gets way worse. Update 1, after reading all your comments and support, I need to update you on what happened. Some of you guessed things would get ugly, you had no idea how right you were. I drove over to Marcus's apartment, this fancy place that, surprise, I helped them afford until he finally got a job last year. The whole drive over, my hands were shaking so bad I could barely steer. Got to his place around 6 p.m., rang the bell probably 5 times before he finally answered through the intercom. "Dad, I'm really busy with wedding prep right now." That's all he says, won't even buzz me up like I'm some door-to-door salesman. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I kind of lost it, started pushing all the other buzzers until someone let me in. Take the elevator up to his floor, and I can hear him and Kate arguing through the door. Then Kate opens up, looking super uncomfortable. Marcus is standing there in their living room, that I furnished, by the way, surrounded by all these wedding magazines and sample centerpieces. He looks at me like I'm something stuck to his shoe. "What do you want?" he asks, and I try to keep it together, really do. Ask him calmly why he didn't tell me about giving Michael all the father's roles in the wedding, the speech, the toast, everything. His response. He smirks, actually smirks, and says, "At least he never replaced mom." I'm like, what? This dude literally abandoned him, hasn't contacted him in 20 years, and I'm the bad guy for remarrying after 5 years of being a single dad? Then he hits me with this gem, "Well, now you know. Good for you. Saves you the travel time and expense. I'll send you photos if I get around to it." Said it so casual, like he was talking about canceling lunch plans or something. Kate's just standing there looking like she wants to disappear. Then Marcus hits me with, "I had to set boundaries, Dad. You've always been controlling. This is my wedding, and I won't let you ruin it like you ruined everything else in my life." At first, I thought he was just being dramatic. Then Kate speaks up, "Marcus told me you had some anger issues when he was younger." Oh my God. She continues, "He told me you used to yell at him all the time, threatened to send him away if he misbehaved." I just stood there stunned. Marcus had convinced his own fiancée that I was some kind of abusive monster. I started asking Marcus how he could do this to me, to Linda. He cuts me off. Oh, here we go with the Linda drama again. Poor Dad and his precious Linda. Did you ever think maybe I didn't want your replacement wife at my wedding? That's when I noticed something. There's a framed photo of him and Michael on their coffee table. Recent photo. Turns out they've been in contact for months. He'd been planning this whole thing behind my back, using my money to fund a wedding where he could play happy family with the guy who threw him away. I asked him what I did that was so horrible he'd rather have Michael take over all the father's roles at the wedding. His response. "You're being dramatic. This is exactly why I didn't tell you. You always make everything about your feelings. This is my wedding, my choice. You're just the checkbook. Just the checkbook. 20 years of being there for every crisis, every meltdown, every rehab stay, every midnight emergency, and that's all I am to him, a checkbook." I looked at Kate and said, "Good luck. You're going to need it." Then I left. Whole confrontation probably lasted 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. Had to pull over on the drive home because I was hyperventilating. Called Linda to come get me because I couldn't drive anymore. That night, I made my decision. I started calling everyone, the venue, the caterers, the florist, the DJ, everyone. Cancelled it all. Most deposits were non-refundable, but I didn't care about the money at that point. Just wanted to stop this whole thing from happening. Had this moment while I was canceling everything where I almost backed out. Saw a picture of Marcus on my desk from his high school graduation. He was actually smiling in it, one of the last times I remember him being genuinely happy. Almost called everything off right there. But then I remembered how he smirked when he told me about Michael. How he called Linda those horrible names. How he said I was just the checkbook. Kept going after that. The dress was already paid for and they had it at their place, so I left that alone. I'm not completely heartless, and it was like the one thing he'd actually been excited about picking out with his friends. You know what's really messed up? While I was canceling everything, I kept getting these automated emails from the wedding planner about upcoming deadlines. Final menu selection due. Time to choose your father-son dance song. Each one was like a knife in the gut. Linda sat with me through all the cancellation calls. Think she was worried I'd back out if she left me alone. She even handled some of the calls when I got too choked up to talk. Remember her telling the florist, "No, we don't want to reschedule. We want to cancel completely." The whole time I kept thinking about how Marcus would react when he found out. Part of me wanted him to hurt like I was hurting. Bigger part of me just felt tired. So damn tired of always being the bad guy in his story, no matter what I did. Funny thing is, this wasn't even the most expensive thing I'd ever paid for with Marcus. Both his rehab stays cost more. But this felt different. This wasn't me helping him through a crisis, this was him using me while actively trying to hurt me. The wedding is in 3 days. The wedding planner keeps calling about final arrangements. I'm letting it all go to voicemail. Figure he'll find out soon enough when everyone shows up to a cancelled venue. Is it bad that part of me is actually looking forward to the chaos that will happen on the wedding day? Update 2, well, it happened. The wedding day turned into exactly the kind of disaster you might expect when 200 guests show up to a cancelled venue. The day started normal enough, I was at home with Linda, both of us just sitting there trying to act like it was a regular Saturday. But we both kept checking our phones every 5 minutes. It was like watching a timer count down to an explosion. Around 10 a.m., my niece starts blowing up my phone. Apparently, the wedding planner and his team showed up at the venue to start setting up, but security wouldn't let them in. Showed them the cancellation paperwork and everything. The wedding planner was freaking out, calling Marcus, calling me, didn't answer obviously, calling everyone. Marcus shows up at the venue around 11, already in his tux, ready for photos. My niece said he looked really good, which just made everything worse somehow. When security told him the venue was cancelled, he completely lost it. Started screaming at the security guards that there must be some mistake, tried to force his way in. Guards had to physically stop him from rushing past them. My niece said Marcus was screaming, "Do you know who my father is?" Which is ironic considering, he didn't even want me at the wedding. The best part? Michael never showed up. Like, at all. "Mister, I'm honored to be the father figure at your wedding," didn't even bother to come. The guy who was supposed to give the father's speech, do the family toast, all those special moments, he just disappeared. My niece said Marcus kept calling him, but it went straight to voicemail. Guess some people never change, huh? Then Kate shows up, and things get even more intense. She's in her wedding dress, trying to climb over a decorative fence to get into the venue. The dress is getting all muddy, the wedding planner's on the phone with his boss having a complete meltdown, and all the guests start showing up around this time. Picture this, 200 people all dressed up with nowhere to go, cars backed up down the street, everyone's confused, calling Marcus, calling each other. Total chaos. The catering trucks arrive, guess nobody told them about the cancellation, and they can't get in either. So now there's like 3 huge catering vans blocking traffic. That's when Marcus finally figures out what happened. My niece said he just went quiet all of a sudden. Like, scary quiet. Then he starts laughing like a crazy person, tells everyone, "My father did this. He ruined everything. He tried calling me probably 50 times, left voicemails that got progressively more unhinged. I didn't listen to them until way later, but holy crap, he threatened to kill me, to kill Linda, to burn our house down. Real psycho stuff." Around 1 p.m., he shows up at our house, still in his tux, which is now completely ruined. He can't get past the gate because I deactivated his access code. Starts leaning on the horn of his car, just holding it down for like 10 straight minutes. Our neighbors called the cops. By the time they showed up, he was out of his car, throwing rocks at our security cameras and screaming about how I ruined his life. Cops had to basically drag him away. Kate looked like she wanted to die from embarrassment. I watched the whole thing on our security cameras. Linda kept telling me to stop watching, but I couldn't. Like, this was my son out there having a complete mental breakdown in a muddy tuxedo. Worst day of my life, honestly. The wedding planner called me later about final payments. Told him to take it up with Marcus. He started saying something about his reputation being ruined, but I hung up. Way past caring at that point. Found out later that some of the guests went to Marcus and Kate's apartment for an impromptu reception with grocery store cake. Real depressing stuff. The fallout from this has been intense. Half my family thinks I'm a monster, the other half finally sees what I've been dealing with all these years. My business partners are looking at me sideways, like they're wondering if I'm stable. Got quietly removed from the country club board, guess ruining your son's wedding isn't a good look, even if he deserved it. Through all this, there's this voice in the back of my head saying, "You did this, you're the adult, you should have been better." I can't sleep most nights, just lay there wondering if I went too far. Then I remember how he smirked when he told me about Michael, and suddenly I don't feel so guilty anymore. We'll update again if anything major happens, but right now, I'm just trying to move forward. Linda's been my rock through all this. She caught me looking at old baby pictures of Marcus the other night, just sat with me, didn't say anything. Think she's hurting too, but trying to stay strong for me. Update 3, got a call from an unknown number last week. It was Kate. My heart basically stopped, thought something had happened to Marcus. But nope, turns out things are way more messed up than I imagined. Kate wanted to meet for coffee. Said she needed to talk. I probably should have told her to get lost, but curiosity got the better of me. Told Linda I was meeting her, she wasn't happy about it, but understood. Went to this quiet coffee shop downtown. Holy crap, you guys. They separated 2 months ago. Why? Because Marcus has been absolutely terrorizing her. Like, throwing plates during arguments, breaking her stuff, screaming at her for hours. According to Kate, he completely lost it after they moved to a new city for her job. Even though he got a similar paying position there, he blamed her for isolating him from his support system. Started acting paranoid, saying everyone was against him. She apologized to me. Said she saw how Marcus treated me and Linda before the wedding but didn't say anything because he had manipulated her into thinking we deserved it. Her words, not mine. She admitted she should have seen the red flags, said Marcus love-bombed her at first, was super sweet and fun, then slowly started showing his real self after they moved in together. By the time the wedding drama happened, she was already walking on eggshells around him. Get this, he even threw a fit because she wanted to invite her sister to their small backyard wedding. Said she was trying to take over everything just like Linda did. That's when things got really interesting. Kate showed me her phone, hundreds of unhinged text messages from Marcus. Screenshots of him harassing her family. Evidence of him spreading lies about her at their workplace. She's building a case for a restraining order. But here's the kicker, remember Michael, the perfect father figure, who was supposed to take all the traditional father roles at the wedding, give the big speech and everything? Turns out he's been scamming Marcus this whole time. He convinced Marcus to invest in some business venture in Europe. Marcus emptied his savings account, took out loans, everything. The business doesn't exist. Michael ghosted him right after getting the money. Just like he did 20 years ago. History really does repeat itself. While all this was happening, I was focusing on my business. Signed 3 major international contracts. Expanded into new markets. Our company's value has tripled. The industry magazine even did a profile on me, resilience in family business or something like that. Kate actually came to me for business advice. She's starting her own consulting firm, and apparently, my reputation in the industry is still solid. We ended up signing a partnership agreement. She's brilliant at what she does, and this collaboration is going to be huge for both of us. The truth about Marcus's lies started coming out too. His old friends reached out to apologize for believing him. My business partners who were skeptical? They're all back on board, bigger than ever. That country club that quietly pushed me out? They invited me back on the board, I declined. Last week, I got an email from Michael's ex-wife in Europe. Apparently, she found out about the wedding drama through mutual friends. She sent me years of documentation, emails, texts, court records. Turns out Michael has been running these scams across Europe for years. Multiple identities, multiple victims. I forwarded everything to my lawyers. They're working with European authorities now. Michael's probably going to face fraud charges in multiple countries. The irony? Marcus can't even be listed as a victim because he was technically complicit in some of the schemes. Marcus tried to contact me when he found out about my business success. Showed up at my office, but security had his photo. He left this long, rambling voicemail about how he's ready to forgive me and wants to rebuild our relationship, right after he found out about the new contracts, of course. I had my lawyer send him a cease and desist letter. Included copies of all his threatening messages from the wedding day, documentation of the property damage he caused, everything. Made it clear that any further contact would result in legal action. Linda and I are doing better than ever. We're traveling more, enjoying life. I've started mentoring young entrepreneurs, turning my experience into something positive. Even wrote a book about business resilience and family dynamics. It's being published next month. The other day, I was cleaning out my home office and found Marcus's baby pictures. For the first time, I didn't feel that gut-wrenching pain. Just nothing. Linda asked if I wanted to keep them. I put them in a box and donated them to Goodwill. Some people asked me if I regret canceling the wedding. Honestly? No. It was the first time in my life I stood up for myself against Marcus's manipulation. Cost me $50,000, but it bought me something priceless, freedom. The real victory wasn't ruining his wedding. It wasn't even exposing Michael's scam. The real victory was finally breaking free from the guilt and manipulation that controlled me for 27 years. I'm done being the villain in Marcus's story. I'm writing my own story now, and it's better than I ever imagined. Thanks for all the support over these months. Special thanks to the other parents who shared similar stories, helped me feel less alone in all this. Guess sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on and living well. This will be my final update. Life's too good now to keep looking back. Oh, and one last thing, I received an interesting letter yesterday. It was from Kate's father, who happens to be a major player in our industry. We're discussing a potential merger that would make my company the largest in our sector. Sometimes karma really does come full circle. In a way, Marcus inadvertently led me to the biggest business success of my life. Life has a strange way of working out. Stay strong, everyone.